can't accept the loss, I'm hard-headed. There's a little bit of madness to my method. Many falling off that fine line that I'm treading. I risk anything to be great, and I'm not letting nobody rob me of my victory. Number one, that's what I'm meant to be. When by any means, only thing that makes sense to me, I can make nice or make history. I got that dog in me, yeah. Turn me up. Big energy, got the crowd going nuts. I got that dog in me, yeah. Any up, I take on anyone. I don't need no one-on-one. I got that dog in me, yeah. I'm talking all bite, no bark. I could rip your squad apart. I got that dog in me. So what's up? Yeah. So what's up?
And how you doing? This is Med with Shots from the Sidelines, the best hour on, I guess, podcasting right now, next to Joe Rogan. So,
I like that.
Well, just trying something different. This is my buddy Seth.
What's up, guys? Great to be back.
It is great to be back. And next week, I didn't really talk to you about it, but next week I got a hockey game. So we might not have the show next week. But
Savannah hockey, man, it's gotten popular.
It's extremely popular, especially now that we're winning.
Yeah, that helps.
It does help a lot. So tonight we're going to have a jam-packed show for y'all. We'll be talking about the college football playoffs. We'll be talking about who we think can possibly get into them. We will be talking about a buy and sell on NFL coaches. There seems to be quite a few toasty seats right now.
Yeah. There's quite a few. I don't know how many will actually happen, but there's guys that had expectations coming into the season and they haven't met them. And high pressure jobs, man. The whole NIL era, that just increases the pressure on these coaches.
And it is what it is, but we're going to dive into that. We will also be talking about Power 5 rankings, our top 5 teams in the NFL. And we have Standing on Business, which we will talk about a person or a team that really stood out this past weekend, and a not a good look, which is the exact opposite. And then we will talk about 3 games in particular, the Commanders and Eagles, which is tonight.
Good game.
Kansas City, Buffalo, and Ravens, Pittsburgh.
Yeah, it's 3 really good games.
Well, we can't talk about the scrubs, right?
NFL every week has multiple good games, unlike college, which I hate to admit that. I'm a big college fan, but
more of a college fan than I am. All right. So first things first, we're going to be talking about the college football playoffs, which will begin in a little more than a month, begins December 20th, and will feature 12 teams. Teams are decided by selecting the 4 highest ranked conference champions as teams that receive the bye week, rounding out the field with the top 12. Now, there is a catch to this. And basically they did a demonstration on last year's teams where Liberty, if they were one of the teams and now they were ranked 23rd, they actually got the seed, the very last seed, because they were a conference champion, I guess. So that's a little fuzzy for me unless you know a little bit more about that.
Yeah, the conference champion thing, it means a whole lot if you're on the Power 5 conferences, but I don't think necessarily, a team in one of these lesser conferences guaranteed anything, especially when you have this many teams with only 1 loss right now, or, some teams like Bama and Georgia with 2 losses, that their schedules are just that much harder. I still think a few of those smaller teams will get left out, even if they're undefeated, which, we still have a few. There's just still a few out there.
Yeah, that's very true. And we're going to get to it, but before that, I just want to say thank you to our 2 sponsors that we actually have. One being Shady Sports Network, who is the one that actually gets us on here.
We appreciate that.
And our other one will be it's actually a cryptocurrency called Sportcoin. They're fairly new to the game, but they're coming out there. Just keep an eye out for them. And
I like the name.
Yeah, Sportcoin. You like that, right? It's nice. So first things first, if you want, we can go back and forth. I could go first all the way through, or you can go first all the way through. Who do you think will be the number 1 seed this season?
I think it's going to be Oregon. I just looking at their schedule the rest of the way. You have the conference title game, but I don't see anybody knocking them off at this point. Looking at the rest of the contenders. I feel like it has to be somebody that wins their conference. And it's going to be tough to beat Ohio State twice. But that's who I would go with, Oregon, right now.
Yeah. And I also went with Oregon. They're 10-1 right now with 62 first place votes, so unanimous. Mm-hmm. And the only thing.
Wait, did you say 10-1?
10-1.
No, Oregon's undefeated, right?
Oh, they are?
Yeah, they're undefeated.
Well, I correct that. They are undefeated then. Sorry about that. But the only thing can stop these Ducks are whoever's playing for them in the championship. I mean, the next two games are Wisconsin and Washington. So.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Last year, the Pac-12, the defunct Pac-12 was so good. You thought them coming into what do they call it now? Just the big.
The big.
I mean, it's the Big Ten.
Big 10, but you might as well say Big 6.
You really thought their schedule would be even more challenging this year, but I feel like it's been less challenging. They did have, I think, what now looks like a pretty good win over Boise State at the beginning of the season. And, of course, the home win over Ohio State might be the best win on any team's resume right now. But overall, their schedule really hasn't been that tough.
No, and I agree with that. I mean, for the most part, like I said, it's when they actually get into the later parts, who will they play in the Big Ten championship? And, right now there's just not many teams out there that really scare me with it.
Well, I mean, after this weekend, we'll know if it's going to be Ohio State or Indiana playing them in the conference title game, which I'd be surprised if it's not Ohio State.
Well, I mean, you never know. I mean, you could see Indiana in that group too. Just to simplify it, I'll go first because I got their games that actually are coming up too.
Yeah.
So Texas is my number 2. They're 8-1. Only losses, of course, to Georgia, which was a really ugly loss. But they did have a scare against Vandy. But with Arkansas, Kentucky, and Texas A&M ahead, they should be able to cruise into the playoffs with a first-round bye. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think they'll get a first-round bye. I think they'll be one of the 4 teams. I actually think that Penn State will be the number 2 just because I don't think they're going to have to play in the title game, which they'll avoid, losing again to Ohio State or losing to Oregon. I'm not saying they're the number 2, like the second best team, but as far as where they'll be seated, I think these other teams are kind of going to beat each other up in these conference title games. I mean, Texas, obviously, I think they're probably the second best team right now, but playing Texas A&M and then an SEC title game, which they could, easily lose. So I think Penn State just has kind of the easier path to that 2 seed.
No, I agree with that. And so you went with
Penn State.
Penn State.
Yep.
Okay. Number 3 for me, kind of one that will shock a little bit of people, but they've been kind of shocking of their own. Was BYU.
Yeah.
Kansas, Arizona State, and Houston are the only teams that await. They may suffer their first loss in those 3, but I seriously doubt it. And they are coached so well, and they have a balanced offense, and their defense is pretty good as well. So what's your thoughts on number 3?
Yeah. I mean, I think I agree with that. I like BYU either in that 3 or 4 spot. I mean, I don't think any of those 3 teams you listed is going to knock them off. I'm trying to remember I'm assuming the Big 12 has a conference title game this year.
They do.
And if so, I'm thinking they're probably going to line up against Colorado, just based on what I've been looking at, which that would be a challenging game. And I think it would definitely give the conference some much needed juice.
Yes.
That conference has been garbage this year.
Yeah. I mean, UCF was like one of their big ones too. And
oh my gosh.
They haven't done anything.
Thank goodness for BYU.
Yeah.
I mean, otherwise that conference just needs to quit like the Pac-12 did.
To bring back the Pac-12.
Man, and I mean, luckily Colorado has had a really good year. BYU, obviously, fantastic year. But yeah, Central Florida didn't bring anything to the conference.
No, they didn't.
So,
my number 4, and this is actually a personal favorite of mine, is Miami. Cameron Ward has had a dream season. Now, of course, they did get a hiccup this past weekend, losing to Georgia Tech. So far, Cameron Ward is my favorite to win the Heisman right now, and they do feature the number 1 scoring offense in the country. It is the 58th ranked defense that needs to be able to stop some people. Really and truthfully, they got 2 games that I think they'll just march on through. Wake Forest does tend to upset some teams every now and then, but Syracuse,
Yeah, that's not much. And then title game against is it Clemson, or I'm trying to think of the other team that's in the running, SMU. Yeah, I don't see either one of those teams beating them. So yeah, I'll agree with you. I think 4 would probably be Miami. I don't know if I would have BYU at 4, vice versa, but 3 and 4 for me, BYU and Miami.
I like that. My number 5 is another undefeated team as of yet. You already kind of mentioned them earlier if they were to actually match up against Ohio State. Indiana, congratulations, Hoosier State. You're a basketball school that is 10-0 in football, and you feature a top 5 offense, a top 10 defense. And really and truthfully, you're the team to actually watch right now. The only team standing in their way right now is Ohio State at the Horseshoe. So they're going to be in Columbus when this actually goes down. Then Purdue, and well, that's Purdue. So,
yeah, that's going to be a huge challenge. Ohio State at home. Yeah, I've had an unbelievable year. I mean, who would have seen this coming? Signetti's just done a fantastic job. I mean, all the way around. They haven't played really anybody yet, but you can only play the games that are on your schedule. So we'll find out against Ohio State how real they are. But yeah, I mean, I think right now that's where I'd have them slotted, number 5.
Number 6. Here's a surprise. I am going with Tennessee, 8-1, with Mr. Josh Hoople finally having
Hoople.
I like messing with him. He's a Tennessee fan. So he has a great defense for a change. Number 5 in the nation. This is something that has just been crazy. Their offense, it always seems back in the day, they always just scored the last couple of years. Now it's the defense holding them up. The offense is scoring enough to really kind of just dictate the game.
Yep.
And they have, it's just a great game. And they have 2 tough games ahead with Georgia and Vanderbilt, which both, Georgia is not looking as tough as it has in the past couple years.
Right, yeah. They're definitely not as dominant this year.
And Vandy has just been surprising teams. They beat my team. So, what's your thoughts on number 6, Tennessee?
I hope and pray you're right. But, if we're basing this on where we see them being, at the final playoff rankings, I don't know if they can beat Georgia at night in Athens. Georgia coming off a loss is going to be really super pissed. So I think I would put Ohio State at 6. Maybe Tennessee a little farther down. But really, if Georgia knocks off Tennessee, this could be a elimination game for whichever team loses. So, yeah, I can't see Tennessee finishing 6 in the playoff rankings. I hope you're right, though.
They've impressed me so far.
They've played well, but really outside of Alabama, they don't have a signature win. Oklahoma was supposed to be pretty good, and they've been bad. And then Florida, of course, we know Florida hasn't been good. I'm trying to think of who else there was. NC State was supposed to be good this year, hasn't been.
And you nuked them.
Yeah, so really, just the Alabama win is the only signature win.
Hey, number 7 at 8-1, I have the Ohio State. So you're right there with them. Good offense that has some playmakers like Jeremiah Smith, another humongous
stud freshman.
Yeah, it's just crazy. And the defense is only allowing 10.7 points per game, which is incredible. Next 3 games are against Northwestern, and then they have 2 home games against number 5 Indiana, and of course Michigan.
Yeah, the only challenge in that is Indiana. Michigan hasn't done anything this year.
They have not.
So I already said Ohio State at 6, so I'll go Notre Dame at 8. Nice. We know Notre Dame doesn't really play anybody the rest of the way, and they don't have a conference title game. USC, of course, is usually one of their main obstacles, and USC has been pretty bad this year.
Yeah.
So Notre Dame, even though they have that one loss to Northern Illinois, back in what was that, like week 2? With that schedule, that soft schedule, I think they do play Army, maybe, who was ranked like 15th or 16th. So I don't think there's no way Army's going to beat Notre Dame. So yeah, give me Notre Dame.
Okay. At number 8, I have Penn State. Number 8-1 last year. Drew Aller was a little bit of a, I guess you would say, had to rely on the running game. This year, he's actually doing a lot better. He's already thrown over 17% of his passes with 13 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. And he has, I think, over 2,000 yards. He's been doing really well with the reading. The running game, of course, is what really butters their bread. And their defense is also in the top 15. I believe they're 11th right now. So 2 games with Purdue and Minnesota, and then a home game to close it out in Maryland.
That's why I had them so high. I mean, I don't think they are one of the top 5 teams, but just schedule wise, yeah.
That's charming
and
right there.
They could have beaten Ohio State if they just hadn't crapped their pants, inside the 5-yard line twice. I mean, they could have easily won that game. They just, for some reason, always play their worst. They just
against the big boys.
Yeah. I mean, it's just James Franklin's MO since he's been at Penn State. So what are we on, number 8? I'm going to go with Alabama at 8. I think that win over LSU was huge last weekend. I know LSU is not great, but it was at LSU. That's not an easy place to win at night. And, Bama already has a signature win over Georgia. And if you want to call LSU a second signature win, there's not many other teams that can say that right now, but they have 2. So I know it was a rough start for them, but it seems like they're kind of rounding into form. They're starting to get comfortable with the system, that the new coach DeBoer is running now. So, and they finally started using the run game, for crying out loud, other than Milroe. So, yeah, I like Alabama at 8.
It's the Milroe show.
Well, I mean, yeah, they mixed in some of the backs that last weekend.
Yeah, he did finally. Number 9, you talked about them earlier. I have Notre Dame at number 9 right now. They boast, of course, one of the best rushing attacks in the land, 30 touchdowns between 5 different players. And we got some comments, and we'll get to them after we're done with this. But, one thing I will say about Leonard Riley, he does struggle with the pass at times. And you definitely see him more as a scrambling quarterback, not someone that's going to sit there, but their defense does step up in certain key situations. I mean, some of the teams they played, yes, not exactly thumpers, but, they still do relatively well. You already talked about it earlier. They have a home game against Virginia, and then number 16, Army, will come in. That's going to be a really good test for them. And then you have USC in California, which is always a great matchup, it seems like sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, USC just doesn't impress me at all this year. I don't think they'll have problems with them, but yeah, it is at USC, so you can't discount it. But yeah, Notre Dame has had a pretty easy path this year. But if you look at their wins, since that one upset, they've dominated teams for the most part. They had the close win against Louisville.
Yeah.
But I mean, do you see a signature win on their resume?
The only one I could really say, if it is a signature one, would be Louisville, because usually they're pretty decent.
Yeah, and they're what?
They're
barely in the top 25. Yeah. So yeah, looking at the rest of this, they just hadn't really played anybody. I guess Army is going to be the next best test.
Yeah. So
what are we at here? Number 9.
Number 9.
Ooh, it's getting tough now. I'm going to go
splitting hairs in the last 3 or 4.
I'm going to go Ole Miss at 9. We saw the huge win last weekend. I know they have 2 losses, so they have no margin for error. But yeah, I don't think they'll be in the conference title game, so they'll avoid another potential loss there. And I think they have like maybe Mississippi State and not much else left on the schedule. But yeah, I love Jackson Dart. I mean, I've said several times how much I like how tough he is. Went out injured in the first half against Georgia, came right back and led them to that win. It was terrible weather, so you really didn't see the wide open Ole Miss Lane Kiffin attack. But they kind of got physical with Georgia.
I was going to say it was a very dominating.
Yeah, I mean, I never would have thought they would be more physical than Georgia, especially after last year when Georgia just trounced them.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was an impressive win. I mean, I know they really screwed up losing to Kentucky. That's a really bad loss. Like all these teams on here, the 2 worst losses that any of these teams we've talked about have had are Notre Dame to Northern Illinois and Ole Miss to Kentucky. But yeah, I think Ole Miss with that win is deserving.
It could actually propel them in there.
Yeah, I think they have a good shot right now.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean that win against Georgia, if anything, it felt like it to me. I don't have Georgia in my playoff list, but to me, it felt like it was kind of like the dagger for them, and they really got to exude some demons and everything because of the past failures that they had against UGA on a constant basis. And I think you're spot on with that one, bro. My number 10, and here it comes. I'm going with Boise State, 8-1 right now, because this is typically where you have the schools that don't really bounce the Richter scale at all. But one player on Boise State that definitely does that is Ashton Genty. 23 touchdowns. He's well on his way to a 2,000 yard season.
He's got to be getting close.
1,736 yards.
He's had some huge games.
And he heads the third-ranked offense with sophomore quarterback Maddox Masson. So they are actually a really good balanced offense. They're 2 games away with San Jose State and Miami coming in before a showdown against Oregon State, which is Oregon State. But I see them going in at number 10.
Yeah. I mean, I like that. Boise State, the only loss on their resume is a pretty close loss to Oregon, so there's no shame in that. So yeah, I'll agree with you. I like Boise State at that spot. I haven't really watched them much other than the Oregon game, but they've been dominating since then.
They stuck it out with Oregon for a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it was probably, besides Ohio State, the closest game that Oregon's had this year. So yeah, I'll agree with you on that spot.
Thank you. What's your number 10?
Oh, that was my 10, wasn't it?
Oh, Boise State.
Yeah, Boise 10. Yeah.
Oh, well, shit. There you go.
That
almost never. I said 10. Boise State 10. All right.
I disappeared.
Oh, you disappeared?
Go ahead and do your 11. I'll be right back.
All right. Well, once he gets back, we will talk about the fact that I have at number 11, and it was eventually going to pop up, Alabama 8-2. It's the Milroe show. We already talked about this a little bit. As long as Jalen Milroe is up and running so side, it's when he struggles, is when you don't see it. It's 29 touchdowns, 2,500 scrimmage yards, and he's been doing it pretty much, it feels like, by himself for that offense. Now they have Mercer and also Oklahoma await them before the Iron Bowl game against the Tigers of Auburn, which is always a good game. That's one of those rivalries where you can just take the record, throw it out. We saw what happened last year. That's who I got at number 11. Who do you have?
I guess I'll go with my balls here. I mean, that's assuming they beat Georgia. I mean, if they lose to Georgia, I think they're out. But, I just can't pick against them, being a huge fan, even though it's going to be really tough to win at Georgia. I don't know, man. If they lose, obviously I'll put Georgia here, but I'm going to go with my balls. So I'm going to hope that the better defense is able to at least keep the Georgia offense in check, kind of like Ole Miss did, and hope that Carson Beck has another off game, throw a couple more picks. I don't think Tennessee's offense is nearly as explosive, as it has been. Nico, redshirt freshman, he's talented and he has amazing plays in him, but they're not consistent. But the one thing they do have is Dylan Sampson, who is far and away the best SEC running back, I think, this season. He's already got like 21 touchdowns on the season.
Oh, he's made me some money.
Yeah, he's getting close to Derrick Henry territory. Yeah. I think Henry had like 25, 26 one year. But yeah, I'll go with Tennessee here. Oh, it says I'm backstage, but you still can't see me.
Oh, okay. And
there.
Oh,
now I'm back.
Oh, yeah. So my last one, number 12, and this is the surprise one because I kind of alluded to it with the Liberty thing I was talking about earlier. I have Tulane, number 20.
Wow, Tulane. Yeah, that is a surprise.
Yeah, Darren Minshaw and company sneak in as the only non-major from the American Conference.
Wow.
John Summerall has actually done a really good job coming in from Troy, and he is really doing well there. They will be playing at Navy and home against Memphis. Memphis is, I think, having an okay season. Navy, of course, is was having a really good season until they lost just recently. They were also ranked in the top 25. But, yep, Tulane, the Green Wave, they are my 12th seed.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. This is going to be tough. I'm trying to think if I missed a team here. I should have written this down. You know what? I'm going to go with a surprise.
Going with surprise?
And you went with a pretty big surprise, too, Tulane. I haven't watched them all year. But I'm going to go with Colorado sneaking in, beating BYU in the conference title game, which I think that'll be a really good game. But Colorado has just been on a heater lately. Obviously we knew they had offense, but their defense has improved some this year. And they haven't had a tough schedule per se, not even close. But if they can knock off BYU in the title game, then that gives them some credit. And I mean, they're, as much as I like to criticize Dion, he's done a good job. They have much improved from last year, especially on the offensive defensive line. They were just hot garbage last year. So yeah, I think they sneak in. I think that would be entertaining to say the least if you got Colorado in there. So yeah, I'll just go with the wild card. Colorado.
I really do like that, especially with the fact that Shadir Sanders has just been blowing it up.
Oh, he's been great.
He's been amazing. In fact, he's in the discussions for like being the number one pick. Now, personally, I would go more towards Ford, and we've discussed this stuff. But him and Joe Horn Jr. have just been lightened up. I mean, that's a great combo.
And you mix in some Travis Hunter.
Hell yeah. And I mean, like you said, they had a huge problem with the trenches, and they were able to actually correct that.
Yeah, brought in some transfers and high recruits. I mean, last year I did not like Shadir Sanders. Just his cockiness, even though they were getting beat down, week after week. I did not like his cockiness, but this year it seems like he's matured. He's playing well. Keeping the talking to a minimum. The antics on the field haven't been as bad. So credit to him. And I think he will be a top 10 pick in this NFL draft.
No, I agree with that. And I mean, that builds getting your shit pushed in on a weekly basis does build character.
That's what I do not like. They won a couple games and got all cocky, and then it's like every week
just lost 8 games in a row.
Yeah, just got dominated. So yeah, great turnaround for them.
So comments, Isaac with the Fun Football Podcast is in our group. So he actually said, "Hey Seth,
what's up, man?
Yeah,
it's been a while."
Yes, it has.
And get your boy Jordan Love going for me, man. Yeah, I'm in the stretch run of fantasy here.
Not this week. This week.
I'm struggling.
He said Vandy has been a surprise. They have been a very big surprise. I mean, they're beating teams that they don't normally beat.
Yeah, I mean, based on talent, and they had a tough schedule too, but based on their talent level, Clark Lee has done a fantastic job there. It's just amazing what he's done. I mean, South Carolina kind of put it to him last weekend.
Yeah.
But every other game they've had, they have been in the game or won the game.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's amazing that they've had this good of a year.
So now we will be going into our buy and sell moment. So
sometimes we agree with it and sometimes we don't. This is buy or sell.
So this week we're going to be doing buy and sell. We're going to be talking about some of the NFL coaches that are on the hot seat. There's quite a few. And, we'll go through them. I'll give them out to you, give you basically what I said. So the first person that is actually up on the list is Antonio Pierce, Las Vegas Raiders head coach. Basically, I put it as a sell on this one because it is his first year, and it's already a lame duck franchise that went with Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew, it's not going to be, they're not going to do it for you. They're not going to carry your team into that upper echelon. But a lot of people felt like they were going to go after like Michael Penix or Bo Nix in this past draft. Did not happen.
Yeah, the Falcons really pulled a fast one on them.
I think that's a great move for y'all in the future. But, now they will have a high draft pick, and it seems like all this team is going to be looking forward to is probably getting a quarterback and also a new offensive coordinator after they let former Bears offensive coordinator Luke Getty go.
So you're selling. You think he's coming back?
I think he'll come back.
I think I'm going to buy. Just like we talked about last week. I can't remember who we were talking about. Oh, we were talking about Michigan, promoting like the players coach, the rah-rah guy, the guy with all the sound bites. Same thing with Pierce. It was a great story for the first couple of weeks after he got promoted. They played really hard, and then you kind of come back down to earth. And this year, it's just been a big disappointment, because they have some talent on that team. I mean, obviously they traded some of it now, like Adams, but they had some talent coming into the season. So it's a big disappointment. And I think you're right. They'll go after a quarterback real high in the draft, but I think they'll want an offensive guy to groom that quarterback, not Antonio Pierce. So I'm going to buy.
Okay. I like it. Next one up, Dave DeBell.
The bill of the
The
ball.
ball. I'm actually selling this one too. I mean, it's Daniel Jones, and for now they do need to win some games in a hurry, but his work with Daniel Jones has to be acknowledged. I mean, it's Daniel Jones.
So frustrating.
He's the most frustrating quarterback I've ever seen in the NFL. But imagine what if he be able to do with a real quarterback. I mean, I hate to say it like that. No, I'm not hating that I say it like that, but it's Daniel Jones. So I'm selling this because I think that their future quarterback is in this year's draft. What do you got?
Yeah, I'll agree with you on this one. I watched most of that game last week in Germany. We apologize to the Germans for giving them that trash. But yeah, watching him on the sideline, after Daniel Jones would make dumb play after dumb play, it's kind of sad because you can just see it in his face. He just knows that he doesn't have a better option. So he was coach of the year a couple years ago.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm going to give him at least one more shot, with another quarterback. I don't care what they have to do. Daniel Jones has got to be gone in the offseason.
No, definitely.
And the defense isn't bad. I like the young running back, Tracy. Obviously, Neighbors, we know he's going to be a star. So they have some other pieces. They just got to get the quarterback right.
Yeah. And if they could just keep Neighbors healthy too, that's
he's starting to have issues with concussions.
But no, their defense, I love what they were able to do. They went the pass rush route with bringing in Brian Burns to go with Lawrence and also Thibodeau, Kayin Thibodeau.
Yeah, they're a little weak in the secondary. They got to beef that up. But I love the defensive line.
Yeah, I like that. Matt Eberflus, I am buying the shit out of this.
I know you are.
4-5. He's in the middle of a 3-game losing streak, and it just seems like he has lost a team. They just basically fired off Shane Waldron, who was the scapegoat. And this past week, I mean, when you're scoring 27 points in 3 games, that's telling me you need to actually get it out. It just feels like they haven't gotten over to Hail Mary yet. And Matt Eberflus, I think they're going to can you? And I think hopefully what I would like to see him do would be to bring in Ben Johnson from Detroit. Your thoughts?
Yeah, that'd be a good move. I was actually hoping the Falcons were going to bring him in. I mean, you're right. Eberflus is a hard buy. I think that Hail Mary pretty much completely turned their season, because they had done a decent job up until that point. I think they're 4-2, and now they've lost 3 straight. They're 4-5. And you got questions at the locker room. Your rookie quarterback has regressed lately. I don't see anything positive to spin it right now. So I completely buy that Eberflus is gone.
And we actually talked about this past Tuesday on the other show, Blitz. And I said, look, when your defensive guru of a coach is trying to teach your quarterback proper footwork, and it just mind boggled me a little bit. And, Caleb Williams leads the league in sacks with 38.
Wow. And he's a mobile guy too.
Yeah. So if he was not mobile,
can't even imagine what that number would be.
I mean, he probably already broke the record by now with that offensive line.
Yeah, it's a shame because I was really high on the Bears coming into the season. I thought they had some really good pieces defensively. I thought they had some really good young players.
Defense is straight.
And then that receiving core looked really good coming into the season, but I don't know, man. I mean, obviously part of it is just having a rookie quarterback being inconsistent, but Keenan Allen, once again, is just healthy sometimes and other times he's not. And then, of course, DJ Moore hasn't really had a very good season. I do like Adunze, what he's done this year. So, all is not lost, but yeah, I don't think Eberflus is the guy.
No, I agree with that. And another guy that I do not think is the guy is next person because I am buying Doug Peterson being let go.
Yeah.
And Jacksonville, he has been 2-8. Oh, right now they're 2-8. But since the surprise wild card went over to Chargers, the Jags have gone 11-16 and 3-13 in the last 16 games. Since going 8-3 last year before they ended up blowing that lead. What's your ideas on Doug Peterson?
I completely agree. Completely buy. This is kind of like my second team since we live so close, and it's been really disappointing. It's like every time the Jags, show you they have something going, it immediately goes to crap next year. And in this case, it's been the last 2 years. I wouldn't be surprised if they sat Trevor Lawrence the rest of the season with that shoulder injury.
Yeah.
I know he's out this weekend. So defense is horrible. And Peterson just hasn't done anything, impressive at all since that wild card berth a couple years ago. So, yeah, I think he's definitely gone.
Yeah. Next one up, Kevin Stefanski.
Oh, man. Tough deal with him.
I have to buy this one. I mean, it's tough because it's not him. It's Deshaun Watson and that GM, and really the same way that you could look at Dave DeBello over in New York. This is one of those deals where a coach has to be able to adjust his team accordingly. And you had a great defense, you had a decent offense with Flacco, but recent trades that we've seen with Amari Cooper and then Zadarius Smith just recently is saying that this team is going into full sell mode at this point. And typically when you see that, you see the coaches getting cut too. What's your ideas on this?
I'm going to sell on Stefanski. I think it's his 5th season. He's been coach of the year twice, I believe. So, I mean, I understand there's a lot of question marks around this team right now, but that's a lot of bad, I won't say bad luck, but just a lot of bad things have happened for this team this year. I mean, you just finally got Chubb back. You just didn't have any semblance of an offense. I mean, Watson was horrible. Now you have Jameis, who's pretty horrible. So I think it's just a lot to put on the coach, kind of like you said with DeBoer at New York. They just don't have anything to work with, especially on offense. So I'll give him another chance. I'd like to see what he can do with a better quarterback, before giving him the boot.
Yeah, that was an iffy one with me. One that is not an iffy that I saw on the wire was Dave Canales. I was really shocked. Yeah, I was kind of shocked about this.
Wow.
I am hard selling this right now because it feels like if David Tepper is going to give Matt Rule all that time for what he did with 4 different quarterbacks that are now doing really well. Sam Darnold's doing great, and Baker's doing great. You look at what he's doing. Bryce Young has actually looked better the last couple weeks. It's not saying much, but still, he has looked a little bit better.
It's baby steps. Huh?
It's baby steps. Got to crawl before you run. Their team is playing like one for the first time in 2 years, and it's starting to. I won't say it's coming together quickly, but it seems to be coming together with him at the helm. I am selling.
I'm definitely selling. I can't imagine they would even consider that. Yeah, that's just got to be a stupid rumor. But yeah, they have gotten a little bit better, with several injuries still. They, obviously lost some good players in the offseason. But yeah, I think Young has shown a little progress last week against the Giants. Maybe kind of like a game manager, but he was efficient. And he did a solid job. And that's all you can really ask at this point, is just to see improvement. And I really like Dave Canales. I know I've said it several times, the job he did with Geno Smith and then Baker in Tampa. And I think if he can just have time, that especially in that division, he can get them respectable in a couple of years. So that would be a hard sell for me.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you on that one, bro. Next one up, this is actually a push for me, Nick Sirianni. And this is the main reason why I say this is him going to the Super Bowl seems to be the only thing that's really keeping him employed. Of course, a couple weeks ago, he was sitting there talking shit to the Cleveland fans on the sideline as they were beating them. His team is 7-2. He has caused some headaches for the front office, and the team has not looked the same since both of his coordinators left after that one Super Bowl appearance. I lean a little bit. It's kind of hard to say because the owner, I think it's Larry is the owner. But
Lurie,
Lurie. I think it's just one of those deals where it's hard to really tell. It's hard to really get a read on it because you have the Philadelphia faithful that just want this guy gone, and it's like, are you sure you really want the guy that helped get you to a Super Bowl gone? So, but I honestly think that this is something that they would probably do. I mean, they fired Doug Peterson after he won a championship for some shit that's been going on up there. So, but for this right now, I'm going push.
I'll go sell on this. I know the Eagles haven't been super impressive in some of their wins, but they've won 7 games at this point. 7-2 is nothing to scoff at, especially when you look at some of these other teams that had high expectations. I mean, really only the Lions and the NFC have met expectations.
True.
So yeah, I mean, unless they just crash and burn again like they did last year down the stretch, then I definitely don't see them getting rid of him this year.
And I don't think they're going to do that because me personally, when they brought in Shaquan Barkley, I think they brought in someone that, has already been kind of scraping the bottom of the ocean with the Giants. Sorry, Giants fans. But it's true. I mean, he was the only player. And now that he's on a team that has a decent talent around him, he's probably one of those people that are like, hey, get your head out of your ass. Yeah,
and Hurts has really started heating up lately. I mean, 3 out of their last 4 wins, they've dominated. And Bengals being one of those teams, Bengals are a pretty good team, held them to 17 points.
I was going to say a pretty solid team for a 4-6 team.
So, I mean, I know he's not the most likable guy, and Eagles fans aren't in love with him, but yeah, I think he'll be back next year.
And the last one, we both thought he should have been gone last year. We're talking about Mike McCarthy, 3 12-5 seasons don't mean a hoot. If you get a blowout loss like that in the wild card, you should have been gone then. But no, Jerry brought him back. I am buying the shit out of this. I can't buy this so much that this dude, he's gone. He's gone.
Yeah. I mean, without a doubt. I mean, the Prescott injury, that's just icing on the cake. I mean, it's done. Can't see any coming back from this. And this is the last year on his contract anyway. So they'll probably let him finish the season because they don't want to put somebody else in there to take through how many more losses. But yeah, McCarthy, he had a pretty good regular season run. Yeah. But yeah, this season has been an absolute disaster.
And even Jerry put out the ultimatum, like, look, if you do not make it to the championship game at the very least, you're gone. And it's like, and
it's not looking good.
No. So
we've seen miracles in sports, but I don't think this is going to be one of them.
This isn't the little Giants or Sandlot. This is the NFL, and if you shit the bed like this, it's not for long. NFL. Next up, we got is the Power 5 rankings. Your top 5 NFL teams. Pretty much in particular order. You want to go 5-1, or you want to go 1-5?
Let's go 1-5.
Okay. So my number 1, and this ain't no shock because I've always believed this, is actually Kansas City. They're the only undefeated team right now. And yes, they've been winning ugly, but they've been winning. And until they lose, they will remain at the top. Patrick Mahomes seems to be actually finally playing quarterback again.
That's right.
DeAndre Hopkins was low key, probably a really good move. A lot of people didn't. It feels like they did a move like the Patriots did back in the day when they were getting Randy Moss and Corey Dillon for 4th-round picks. That's really what this felt like. Winners just win, and everything. Either close games in free agency or even in trades, they just keep on winning. Sickeningly, Kansas City 9-0, number 1.
Yeah, I kind of go back and forth on 2 teams, but I'm going to go just to be the contrarian. I'll just go with the Detroit Lions because I've just been on that bandwagon now for 2 years. But Detroit, they had a close call last week, but when you can still win, even though your quarterback threw 5 picks, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
At Houston, Houston's a pretty solid team. So, I mean, I think they've been the most impressive week in, week out. Some of the dominating wins they've had this year. Weapons. Detroit has weapons everywhere. I mean, it's like so many weapons that you don't know who you're going to get hit from week to week.
They're America.
And now they got, the Williams is back, wide receiver. So I know they're not a complete team. They got a few weak spots on defense. Hutchinson obviously has a big loss. But to me, they've been the most impressive team overall. I mean, Chiefs obviously pedigree wise, there's no doubt the Chiefs are going to be there in the Super Bowl to me. But yeah, I'll go Detroit.
Okay. So Detroit is my number 2 team, and it's no shock why. You kind of already said it. And, Goff threw 5 picks last week. They still won, but the week before he threw only for 85 yards and 3 touchdowns, and they destroyed.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a odd game.
Yeah. So, they just keep finding ways to win. And like you said, they got weapons upon weapons. We're talking Cold War era shit right here. We're
stocking them up.
They just stocked them up, and they just seem to be getting better. They did a great trade with the Browns with getting Zadarius Smith to hold in for Aiden Hutchinson, and it gets even better for him because Zadarius Smith has 2 more years on that contract.
Mm-hmm.
So if he does really well on this, they can cut him if they want to, but why not just keep him on? You already got to and use him in the rotation with Hutch and Suzuki. So,
yeah, you're always going to have injuries. There's always going to be guys going down. Having depth is a great thing.
Yeah, so good move on them, and you're my number 2 right now, Detroit.
Yeah, so I guess we just flip-flopped. I got the Chiefs at number 2. Until somebody knocks them off, I can't go against them being in the Super Bowl. I'd like to see the Ravens knock them off, but after last year, I'm not holding out too much hope. They should be getting Pacheco back soon, maybe next week. And I think he's a better back than Kareem Hunt, even though Kareem Hunt's done a great job filling in. But they're just winners. It's not always pretty. And even when Mahomes isn't playing well, that defense steps up. So, if I had to pick a defense between those 2 teams, I'd still take the Chiefs over the Lions.
Definitely.
But I think that's your Super Bowl matchup right now.
And a lot of people felt like with Ladarius Sneed going down to Tennessee, they just felt like that the defense was going to fall apart. No, Nick Bolton's still there. You still got McDuffie on the other side. Chris Jones, Kalafis. They're stacked on defense as much as they are stacked on the offense.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, that's definitely they're the team to beat right now, and no ifs, ands, buts in the AFC. My number 3 team is probably going to be the same as yours. Is Baltimore at 7-3. Derrick Henry would be an MVP front runner if not for Lamar Jackson and his amazing season he's having right now. He's already thrown for 20 touchdowns. He's run for 5 more. He's just a touchdown machine. And Derrick Henry is running for 100 yards, and I think he averages a touchdown a game.
Mm-hmm.
So,
unbelievable year for a 30-year-old back.
Yeah. He legit can actually have a chance to actually be the first back in NFL history to have 2 2,000-yard seasons.
Yeah, wouldn't that be unbelievable? And it's possible. Yeah, you're right. The only thing that hasn't really improved is their kicking situation. Finally, Tucker's starting to show some age.
As many times as he has won games for him, it feels like, he's trying just as hard to lose some for him now. Who's your number 3?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Baltimore also. You called it. To me, there's no one else in the NFC right now that I trust enough to put over Baltimore. And I kind of, I went back and forth on 2 teams for the spot, but right now, I'll go with the Ravens. I think Lamar is playing out of his mind. They have great running back, Flowers at receiver. This offense is a lot more complete than we've seen it up until this point, I think. Yeah. The defense obviously isn't what it used to be, but now they're outscoring teams. So, now they've outscored the Bengals, twice?
Yeah.
So,
in shootouts.
Yeah.
And all it took was just grabbing a 30-year-old running back that Dallas probably should have went after, but didn't.
Man, talk about huge mistake.
Number 4, I got Buffalo 8-2 with Josh Allen working magic as the Bills remain hot, and they won 5 in a row so far. And one of the things that they had an issue with before they did this was a lot of people felt like his receiving core was going to be his weakness. Now, Khalil Shakir has been admirable and doing his thing as kind of like a slot receiver. But other than that, Keenan Coleman hasn't really been doing that much. And then they go out and they get Amari Cooper in a trade. And I think that is probably one of the better moves in trades in a long time for I would say, the last couple of years. So
Yeah, quietly, that was a real good move.
So I have them at number 4.
Yeah, I'm going to go with, I guess, a little bit of a surprise. I'm going to go with Pittsburgh. Yeah, I like what Russell Wilson's done since he's come back. You know, I mean, I know he got a lot of hate last year in Denver, a lot for me because I drafted him in fantasy. Maybe that was 2 years ago I had him. Was he 2 years in Denver?
Those 2 years
Okay,
ago.
yeah, 2 years ago is what I'm thinking of.
That's when you set the record.
Yes. So it's hard for me to let go of that, Russell, but he's been solid since he's come back. George Pickens has taken a step, you know, and kind of turned into a elite. I don't want to say elite receiver, but he's turned into a solid number 1 receiver. And then Najee Harris has had a really good year.
He bounced back huge.
Yeah, I mean, I think he suffered injury this past week, but he's been really, really good. And that defense, there's no question to me, it's the best defense in the league. And defense always shows up, or not always, but usually shows up. Yeah, you can usually count on the defense week to week. But yeah, I like Pittsburgh here.
Okay. Number 5, I actually have Pittsburgh. So that means I have no other NFC team on my list other than Detroit. And the main reason why is you just nailed it. The Super Bowl defense that the Pittsburgh Steelers have is just amazing. They brought in Preston Smith from Green Bay, which some people are like, why would they do that? Well, more pass rushers. You get that rotation. You hear me once, you'll hear me 20,000 times. If you get a good pass rush, you have a great pass defense. And Russell, you know, he kind of reminds me a little bit of what he was able to do in Seattle, kind of in the middle years, not the late years or the beginning, but he actually gives that team a passing attack.
Just be efficient.
Yeah. I mean, just throw the ball down the field, get people off the line. You know, I love Justin Fields. I think he's a good quarterback, but he's not a great quarterback, and he's especially not great passing the ball. And
you've got to have the threat of the pass.
Yeah.
You know, you can't just let teams just concentrate on the run game and just shut that down. So yeah, I think you're right. Russell is just a little more efficient, and you know, he's just done a solid job since he came back. Yeah, and when you talk about defense, when you get into these late, well, actually it's January games, like mid to late January games up in the Northeast, you got snow, bad weather conditions. A great defense is even more important. You know, because you're not going to be able to throw it all over the place. So my number 5, I'm actually going to go with an NFC team. I'm going to go with the Eagles.
Okay. That's who it was.
Yeah, I mean, I know they haven't been super impressive, but as of late, they have been, you know, improving. Jalen Hurts has had a couple really good weeks. I mean, their schedule hasn't really been that tough. I mean, beating down Dallas is pretty much everybody's beating Dallas down lately. So, but tonight, which starts in a few minutes, I think that's a statement game. If they can come in and take care of Washington, then they're definitely my number 5 team, number 2 team in the NFC. So yeah, I'll go with Philly.
I like it. Philly, of course, I didn't get him in our league, but I have Shaquan Barkley in my other league, and
great year.
He's pretty much been carrying.
Yeah, other than Derrick Henry, he's probably had the second most impressive running back year.
Yeah, no, they just both been freaking studs. Next up, we got our Standing on Business Award. This is basically a player that really kicked ass this past weekend. And mine actually went to a team that not many people really look at, but Chuba Hubbard.
Yeah, Chuba, nice.
Chuba, yeah. 28 carries, 153 yards, and 1 touchdown to help Panthers improve to 3-7. I trash on this guy all the time, but this past year, I mean, he's having a really good year, and to see him actually succeed, I mean, I love when I get to see players prove me wrong in some way, shape, or form. This dude is definitely doing it. I think he's averaging over 5 yards a carry, which is phenomenal, especially when you look at the fact that the Carolina Panthers really have no passing attack. And, you know, they had Andy Dalton for a couple weeks. He lit it up, and then he got lit up. And now they got Bryce Young, who is winning ugly, but he's winning at least. You know, if there is one player that the Carolina faithful can get behind, it is Chuba Hubbard.
Yeah, that's a good call. And got that new contract extension too, didn't he?
Yeah.
Last week before the game. I didn't research this one a lot, but just one player just
really
stood out to me, and that's Jamar Chase. Unbelievable week. Just killed it. Just absolutely just
Killed
been
my
elated.
fantasy team
Yeah.
in both leagues.
I mean, he just left like skid marks on Baltimore's defense. Just the way he just would catch these short passes. Well, some of them weren't short, but a few short passes and just outran that whole secondary to the end zone. I think he had almost 250 yards receiving, a couple touchdowns, fantasy points. I think he had close to 50, something like
I
that.
tried not to look at it. I mean, I'm being honest.
Yeah.
I just tried not to look at it.
And
because I just
another reason I picked this guy is because I like how he came in, didn't get the huge contract extension like some of the other guys did, and has just handled his business. He hadn't whined, cried all year about money. He might be behind the scenes, but he's coming out doing his thing on the field.
With it.
And it's been fun to watch. I really hope that Cincinnati still somehow sneaks into this playoff picture, because I think Burrow is the kind of guy that, other than Lamar Jackson, is playing well enough to carry them deep into the playoffs, even though they haven't had a great regular season.
So one of the things you mentioned, Burrow, and I actually asked this a couple weeks ago, is he's been playing pretty much lights out. Do you think if he was not on the Bengals right now and they weren't 4-6, that he'd be in the MVP discussion?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, right now, him and Lamar Jackson, and you might want to throw maybe Derrick Henry in there, just to have a third person, but that would be my top three, just off the top of my head. I might be missing somebody, but yeah, that no question, if they weren't 4-6, he would be at the front of that.
Definitely. Not a good look. I am going with the Houston Texans after they lost with a 23-7 lead at halftime and ended up Jared Goff threw you 5 picks and you still lost. It's not a good look when you actually go in and you lose by that margin. It looked like y'all had the game in hand, but this is why I said earlier, Detroit always finds ways to win all of a sudden. And Houston at one point was the team that I figured could be the team that could knock off Kansas City before anyone else. And now I'm not so sure. So, in fact, I would go ahead and say probably not.
Oh, yeah. Right now, no way. I mean, at least they're getting Nico Collins back. That should help a little bit. But, yeah, they've been –
CJ Stroud hasn't done what he did
last year. No, I mean, he absolutely has had kind of a sophomore slump. But, yeah, losing your receivers, losing Diggs. Tank Dell was out for a while. Mixon's had a great year, but yeah, the Texans have been a little disappointing considering the expectations. Let's see. I will go with. I'm just gonna go with a team since you went with the team, right? So I'm gonna go with the Falcons. I mean, they're my NFL team, but they had some good momentum going. I felt really about them winning this division, and then you go and lay a freaking egg against the Saints, who have absolutely no juice right now.
None.
I don't
fire their head coach.
Something about playing in New Orleans is like, even when they're terrible, they give the Falcons fits. And I don't know, man. They blew it. That could have put them at 7-3. And I'm
sorry, as soon as you look down, you're like, they blew it.
Yeah.
It sounds like after every Bears game.
I mean, what do the Saints have right now? Alvin Kamara.
Yeah.
And that's about it.
Yeah, because Olave's out right now, ain't
he? Yeah, I'm pretty much every receiver they have is out. Shaheed's out. Olave's out. They don't have a tight end.
I mean, Derek Carr is your quarterback.
Derek Carr? I don't know. Their defense is old. They've been trading away players. They just traded away Lattimore, their best defensive back.
Corner. Yeah. That's a good matchup.
I just don't know how you do that. It's just really disappointing. I mean, the Falcons, they lost, gave me real in, kind of like Jacksonville. And then, poof, just momentum is gone.
This is the first time I actually seen you this disheveled about your Falcons.
You should have seen me Sunday. And this game was just really frustrating. I mean, Cousins didn't have a bad game. And Bijan had a good game. Drake London had a good game. It's just you didn't have their defense didn't make enough stops against a putrid offense.
Which is crazy because one of the big things why, like when I did a top 5 a couple weeks ago, Atlanta was one of my top 5. And I said that because I said their defense is pretty fucking solid. And
it had been.
Until the Saints.
And then you let Marquez Valdez-Scantling come in off the street and drop 2 touchdowns that ever yard receiving on you.
I didn't even realize that.
I don't think anybody really knew he was on that team. Well, the Bills this season, didn't he? I think. And somehow
he was with the Chiefs to the Bills. The Saints.
Just walked in off the street in his first game and just, it might have been the second game actually with the Saints, but just worth up.
Well, I mean, at the same time, you think about it, he's good for like one game a year.
Well, that was his one game.
There you go.
Hopefully, we'll get it turned around next week.
So some predictions, and we're just off the rip on this because I forgot to actually include this on the script. We are going on an hour right now, so
wow, goes by fast.
So we'll just go ahead and start with today's game, Commanders against the Eagles. I don't have the spread on me right now because I goofed that, but between these two teams, do like what Lattimore pick up and everything like that. It'd be a great match over he's going up against, whether it's AJ Brown or
Devontae
Smith. But you know, you're looking at defenses. The Eagles defense kind of tips a little bit more, and like you said, Jalen Hurts has just been balling. I mean, Jaden Daniels is like was my pick to win the Offensive Rookie of the Year at the beginning of the season before even the game started. But I think that the Eagles are just going to be a little too much this time, and I just think that the Eagles are going to take this one.
Yeah, I agree. I love what Washington's done, and Quinn's done a phenomenal job. I just think the Eagles' defense has improved enough to where I trust them a little bit more. And it's at Philadelphia, right?
Yes.
So, yeah, I'll take the Eagles. I think this is just a little too much for Washington at this point in their development.
Yep. Next game we have on the slide will be the Ravens and the Steelers. This, of course, is one of those great rivalries that we got to see a lot of in the 2000s. We're talking Troy Polamalu, Ed Reed, Ray Lewis, James Harrison, all them boys. And they were able to actually rock it then. It feels like the rivalry is still starting to heat back up a little bit with some players they got. This game is the first one that seems to matter in a long. I know that they played for the Steelers going into the playoffs last year, but Baltimore already had theirs sewed up with the number 1 seed, so they basically started all their third stringers.
And the Steelers had Mason Rudolph last year, right?
Yeah.
At that point in the year.
Huge upgrade. Yeah. Even, you know, it's weird to say that with you know, with what happened with Russell Wilson a couple of years ago, but I mean, it's a big upgrade over Mason Rudolph, who is in Tennessee now. But yeah, this is going to be a superstar offense against a superstar defense.
Yeah, great matchup.
And then the sideshow, which would be for the first time ever, the Baltimore defense with the Pittsburgh offense. This one's going to be a really good game. I just think that too much Derrick Henry, too much Lamar Jackson. Baltimore takes it.
Yeah, I agree with you on this one too. I think the injuries last week that the Steelers sustained, they should get those guys back eventually, but I think this week they're going to be a little shorthanded, and I don't think they can outscore the Ravens. The Ravens are going to put up some points even against that great defense. So yeah, I'll go Ravens also.
And the last game that we have is two teams that we talked about in our top 5. We got the Kansas City Chiefs against the Buffalo Bills. I think this is in Buffalo too. And you know, this is one of those games where you kind of just look at it and David Murphy, Eagles fly, over under is 46.5.
That's high.
49.5, sorry. I'm evidently dyslexic right now. That is a little on the high side, but you know what? You're talking 22 teams that easily average around 27 points a game. I'm going to go with over on that one.
Yeah, I don't know. That's pretty high for an NFL game. I don't know. I always tend to go under whenever it gets above like 48 for NFL games. Yeah, I'll go under. Slightly under.
You win more than I do. And last game, we were talking about Buffalo, Kansas City. Kansas City's been winning ugly. I like their defense. Their offense seems to be starting to move the ball more. Like you said, Pachinko will be back soon. And you got Kareem Hunt, who's been filling in really well. But I just think the Buffalo Bills are going to take it this time. And it's strictly because that offense that they have sometimes can be unstoppable if he is hot. And I think that he's going to continue his hotness as far as that's concerned. I'm getting stiff over here, ladies and gentlemen, on all that hotness.
Better turn the fan back on.
Yeah. Give me the Bills.
Yeah, I will go Kansas City. Like I said earlier, I just can't go against them until somebody actually knocks them off. And I think Buffalo has played better than I expected them to this year. I know I kept saying that a window was pretty much closed, but at 8-2, they're pretty much a guaranteed division winner over there with basically nobody else even close right now. So I think it'll be a close game, but I still like the Chiefs. I wish it was colder and maybe snowy in Buffalo, but it's a little too early for that. I think the weather's actually not going to be a factor this weekend, so I'll take the Chiefs.
Are you doing that just because, or
no? I mean, I just feel like
that
they're a better all-around team. I mean, the Bills have surpassed, I think, my expectations and played pretty well considering all the pieces they lost off last year's roster. But the Chiefs, they just find ways to win, and I just right now, even though I want to pick against them, I just can't.
I feel that. Any final thoughts before we cut this off?
No, I'm just looking forward to hopefully Tennessee win over Georgia for the first time in like 7 years. So I think it'll be a close game, but man, I just keep going back to Athens at night and them coming off a loss. Kirby is just going to have them just used to the gills. So it's going to be tough, but I'm looking forward to it. It should be a good game. There aren't many other great games college-wise on this weekend. So hopefully everybody will be watching that one.
Yep. And as far as my final thought, I am super excited that Shane Waldron has gotten fired as our coach. It felt like I got Luke Getty again this year. And this is the third offensive coordinator that Eberflus has had in his 3-year tenure.
That's not a good sign.
Chicago. So I think there's going to be brighter skies up ahead. I'm not sure if it's going to be this weekend, but if you're giving me Thomas Brown, who was your offensive coordinator for the Panthers during the Frank White era, it's not looking good.
But Thomas Brown, former running back at Georgia?
Yes, sir.
Wow.
That is the same.
I didn't realize that.
Yep. So he's now the offensive coordinator for the Chicago Bears.
Well, can't get worse, right? Not worse than the last couple of weeks.
He was the offensive coordinator for the Panthers back when they scored 13 points a game.
Well,
someone told me that the Packers are going to beat Bears by 30. I say you're full of shit. And
no, 30?
30.
Who said that? Isaac?
No, it wasn't Isaac. Mac Rummage, he's a Packers guy.
30. Good Lord.
So
that would be shocking if that happened.
Yeah.
I mean, the Packers haven't really lit the world on fire lately.
No, especially with the fact that, they lost against, well, no. Anyway, I'm Ed. That's Seth.
Thanks, everyone.
And
joining us.
For all of the people that are watching, have a great night. Enjoy the game. See you next
have a good weekend.
Well,
take care.
See you in 2 weeks.
Can't accept the loss, I'm hard-headed. There's a little bit of madness to my method. Many falling off that fine line that I'm treading. I risk anything to be great, and I'm not letting nobody rob me of my victory. Number one, that's what I'm meant to do. When by any means, only thing that makes sense to me, I can make nice or make history. I got that dog in me, turn me up. Big energy, got the crowd going nuts. I got that dog in me, I take on anyone, I don't need a one-on-one. I got that dog in me, I'm talking all bite, no